child sits alone, staring at a stack of medical papers. Outside his window, children are playing football, their laughter echoing through the evening air. Normally, he would be with them. Normally, he would be chasing a ball through the streets until darkness forced him home. But tonight, nobody in the room is speaking. A few hours ago, doctors told his family something that could destroy his future. The adults are trying to stay calm, but he can see fear hiding behind their eyes. And for the first time in his life, a terrifying thought enters his mind. What if the dream is already over before it truly begins? The sun is disappearing behind the rooftops of Rosario, Argentina. Long shadows stretch across empty football fields. A lonely football rests beside a rusted fence, untouched and forgotten. Somewhere in the distance, children continue playing without a care in the world. Their dreams feel simple. Their futures feel certain. But inside a small house nearby, fear has settled into every corner of the room. Nobody knows what tomorrow will bring. Nobody knows whether the dream they have spent years building is about to collapse. And as night slowly arrives, history waits quietly in the darkness, preparing to change the world of football forever. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are 11 years old. Football is not a hobby. Football is your entire world. Every dream begins with a ball at your feet. Every future version of yourself is wearing a football jersey. Then, one day, doctors tell your family that your body may never develop normally. Suddenly, everything changes. Friends continue growing stronger while you remain behind. The future that once felt guaranteed begins slipping away. For the first time, you realize that talent alone may not be enough. And no matter how much you love the game, love cannot solve every obstacle standing in your path. Tonight, we uncovered the untold story of Lionel Messi. The story of a boy who was told he might never reach his dream. A boy who crossed an ocean to save his future. A boy who refused to surrender when life placed impossible obstacles in his path. Years later, millions would call him the greatest footballer of all time. But long before the trophies, the records, the World Cup, and the glory, there was only a frightened child facing a future filled with uncertainty. If you enjoy untold stories, remarkable journeys, and extraordinary lives, consider subscribing to StoryFace. Because this story does not begin with greatness. It begins with fear. Long before the stadiums, long before the trophies, long before millions of people chanted his name, there was only a small boy running through the dusty streets of Rosario. From sunrise until darkness covered the city, he chased a football everywhere he went. Neighbors saw him, friends saw him, coaches saw him, and they all noticed the same thing. The ball seemed to obey him. It moved exactly where he wanted it to move. Even when surrounded by older children, he played with a confidence that seemed impossible for someone so young. While others saw a talented child, few realized they were witnessing the first chapter of football history. By the age of 5, football had already become the center of Messi's world. While other children played for fun, he played as though every match mattered. Every spare moment was spent with a ball at his feet. Neighbors often stopped to watch him. Coaches spoke about him long after games had ended. Even older players struggled to understand how someone so young could control the ball with such ease. The streets of Rosario were filled with talented children, but there was something different about this boy, something impossible to explain, something impossible to ignore. And with every passing year, the whispers about his future grew louder. As Messi grew older, his reputation spread far beyond his neighborhood. Opposing teams heard stories about him before matches even began. Parents standing along the sidelines pointed him out to one another. Coaches watched him with curiosity. Every game seemed to follow the same pattern. Defenders tried to stop him. Defenders failed. He moved through crowded spaces as though he could see opportunities nobody else noticed. Some called him gifted. Others called him special. But nobody could have imagined where his journey would eventually lead. At that moment, the future seemed limitless, and every road appeared open before him. Then, slowly, something began to change. While Messi's football abilities continued improving, his body did not. Friends who once looked exactly like him suddenly became taller and stronger. Teammates grew rapidly. Messi remained small. At first, nobody worried too much. Children develop differently, after all. But as months turned into years, the difference became increasingly difficult to ignore. Coaches noticed it. Family members noticed it. Even Messi noticed it. Questions started appearing. Quiet conversations began taking place behind closed doors. And somewhere in the background, concern slowly began replacing confidence. The uncertainty eventually became impossible to ignore. Messi's parents wanted answers. They wanted reassurance. They wanted someone to explain why their son was developing differently from everyone around him. Doctors were consulted, tests were performed, weeks of waiting followed. Every day felt longer than the one before. The family hoped the results would bring good news. They hoped the concerns were temporary. They hoped everything would return to normal. But deep down, fear was growing stronger. And when the answers finally arrived, they would change everything. The future they imagined was about to be rewritten forever. The diagnosis was devastating. Messi suffered from growth hormone deficiency, a condition preventing his body from producing enough growth hormone naturally. Without treatment, his physical development could be severely affected. For most children, such news would be difficult. For a child whose entire future revolved around football, it felt catastrophic. Suddenly, the greatest obstacle in his life was not an opponent on the field. It was something hidden inside his own body, something he could not dribble past, something talent alone could not defeat. And as the reality settled over the family, the battle for Messi's future officially began. The diagnosis was only the beginning. Doctors explained that treatment was possible, but it would require years of expensive hormone injections. For Messi's family, the cost felt overwhelming. Every month would bring another bill. Every year would bring another financial burden. They sat around kitchen tables discussing possibilities, searching for solutions that never seemed to appear. The dream was still alive, but now it had a price attached to it. And for the first time, the family's greatest challenge was no longer football. It was finding a way to protect the future of the boy they loved. Despite the diagnosis, Messi refused to stop playing. Every time he stepped onto a football field, the fear seemed to disappear. Opponents remained bigger and stronger, yet they still could not stop him. Coaches continued praising him. Spectators continued gathering to watch him play. The condition may have threatened his future, but it had not touched his determination. Deep inside, Messi still believed the dream was possible. He still believed football was where he belonged. And while uncertainty surrounded him off the field, on the field, he continued proving that talent like his was impossible to ignore. Messi joined the youth system of Newell's Old Boys, one of Argentina's most respected football clubs. It quickly became clear that he was different from the other children. Match after match, he dominated opponents. Goals arrived constantly. Victories followed wherever he played. Coaches struggled to find challenges difficult enough for him. Spectators traveled simply to watch him perform. Even at a young age, stories about his talent spread across the region. Some people believed they were watching the future of Argentine football. Others thought those claims were exaggerated. Time would prove they were not exaggerated enough. As the years passed, Messi's reputation continued growing. Opposing teams often discussed him before matches even began. Coaches warned defenders to stay close to him. It rarely worked. He moved through defenses with remarkable ease, creating opportunities from situations that appeared impossible. Every successful performance added another layer to his growing legend. Yet behind every celebration was the same difficult reality. The medical treatment remained expensive. The future remained uncertain. No matter how brilliant he looked on the football field, the battle away from it was becoming harder with each passing year. Messi's family searched desperately for help. They explored every possible option. They spoke with clubs, they spoke with doctors, they spoke with anyone who might provide support. Some offered encouragement, others offered sympathy. Very few offered solutions. Months continued passing. The treatment costs remained. The uncertainty remained. The dream that once seemed so close now felt trapped behind a wall that talent alone could not break through. For the first time, there was a genuine possibility that one of football's greatest stories might end before it ever truly began. Then something unexpected happened. Stories about a gifted young footballer in Argentina began reaching Europe. At first, they sounded like the kind of rumors that appear around talented young players every year. But these stories refused to disappear. Scouts kept hearing the same descriptions. A small boy with extraordinary ability. A player who seemed different from everyone around him. The reports became impossible to ignore. Eventually, those whispers reached one of the biggest football clubs in the world. And from that moment forward, Messi's future would never be the same again. The club was Barcelona. Their scouts had spent years searching for exceptional talent across the globe. When reports about Messi arrived, curiosity quickly turned into serious interest. Club officials wanted answers. Was this young Argentine really as special as people claimed? Could a player so physically small truly possess such extraordinary potential? There was only one way to find out. Barcelona arranged an opportunity to see him firsthand. It was a chance few young footballers ever receive. And for Messi, it represented something even greater than football. It represented hope. When the invitation arrived, it felt almost unreal. Barcelona wanted Messi to travel to Spain for a trial. For most young players, such an opportunity would be a dream. For Messi and his family, it felt like a lifeline. This was not simply a chance to impress a famous club. It was a chance to save a future that seemed increasingly fragile. Success was not guaranteed. Failure remained a possibility. Yet for the first time in years, the family could see a path forward. And sometimes, a single opportunity is enough to change everything. Accepting Barcelona's offer required an enormous sacrifice. Messi would have to leave behind everything familiar. Friends, relatives, streets he knew by heart. Argentina was home. Leaving it felt terrifying. Yet opportunities like this rarely appear twice. His family understood what was at stake. If they wanted to protect his dream, they would need to embrace uncertainty once again. Carrying equal parts hope and fear, they prepared for a journey across the Atlantic Ocean. None of them could fully understand it at the time, but they were about to step into a completely different world. Spain felt nothing like Rosario. The buildings were different, the language sounded different, the entire world seemed unfamiliar. For a young teenager, the experience was overwhelming. Yet beneath the uncertainty was excitement. This was Barcelona. This was the club he had dreamed about. This was the place where his future would be decided. Every training session suddenly carried enormous importance. Every touch of the ball mattered. Messi knew he had been given a chance that millions of children could only imagine. Now he had to prove he deserved it.
Barcelona's coaches expected to see a talented young player. What they did not expect was Lionel Messi. The moment training began, attention shifted toward the small Argentine boy. Defenders struggled to stay close to him. Coaches exchanged surprised glances. Every touch of the ball seemed effortless. Every movement carried confidence beyond his years. Within minutes, people on the sidelines realized they were witnessing something unusual. The questions that existed before the trial slowly disappeared. A new question emerged instead. Not whether Messi was talented enough for Barcelona, but whether Barcelona could afford to let him leave.
Training sessions continued, and Messi continued astonishing everyone who watched him. It did not matter how difficult the drills became. It did not matter how experienced the opponents were. The result remained the same. He adapted instantly. He created opportunities where none seemed possible. Coaches who had spent decades evaluating young players found themselves struggling to describe what they were seeing. Talent was common in football academies. Players with potential appeared every year. But this felt different. This felt rare. This felt like the beginning of something extraordinary. Barcelona officials quickly realized they faced a difficult choice. Messi's talent was undeniable, but signing him involved more than football. His medical treatment remained expensive. Supporting his development would require a significant commitment. Some people hesitated. Others argued passionately in his favor. Meetings stretched late into the evening. Discussions continued behind closed doors. Yet the more people watched Messi play, the harder it became to imagine letting him go. Talent like this did not appear often, and everyone understood that decisions made during those days could shape football history for generations. One afternoon, as uncertainty continued surrounding the negotiations, Barcelona executive Carlos Rexach made a decision. Concerned that delays might cost the club an extraordinary talent, he grabbed a paper napkin and wrote an agreement by hand. It was simple, informal, far from a traditional contract. Yet that small piece of paper would become one of the most famous documents in football history. In that moment, nobody could fully understand its significance. But years later, millions would look back at that napkin and realize it helped change the future of the sport forever. With Barcelona committed to supporting him, Messi's life changed completely. The dream that once seemed impossible suddenly became real again. Yet success remained far from guaranteed. He was living in a foreign country. He was separated from much of his old life. Everything felt unfamiliar. New schools, new teammates, new expectations. Every day presented fresh challenges. Yet, despite the difficulties, Messi understood something important. This opportunity existed because people believed in him, and he had no intention of wasting it. Messi entered La Masia, Barcelona's famous football academy. Many talented players had trained there before him. Future stars walked its halls. Great careers began within its walls. Yet even among such exceptional company, Messi stood out. Coaches noticed it almost immediately. Teammates noticed it too. His understanding of the game seemed years ahead of his age. His decisions came naturally. His movements appeared effortless. Every training session reinforced the same conclusion. Barcelona had not simply signed a promising player. They had discovered something much rarer. Success came with sacrifices. Messi missed home. He missed friends. He missed familiar streets and familiar faces. There were difficult days when loneliness felt overwhelming. While supporters would later see trophies and celebrations, they would rarely see these quieter moments. Moments when a teenager questioned whether the sacrifices were worth it. Moments when uncertainty returned. Yet every challenge strengthened him. Every difficult experience prepared him for the future. And slowly, without realizing it, he was developing not only as a footballer, but as a person.
Year after year, Messi climbed through Barcelona's youth system. Opponents changed, expectations increased, pressure grew stronger. Yet his performances remained remarkable. Defenders continued struggling against him, coaches continued praising him. Success followed him wherever he played. The further he advanced, the clearer the picture became. This was no longer a story about potential. It was becoming a story about inevitability. People inside Barcelona began speaking openly about his future. Not if he would reach the first team, but when.
At the same time, Barcelona's first team featured one of the most exciting players in world football, Ronaldinho. The Brazilian superstar dazzled supporters with his creativity, joy, and brilliance. To young Messi, Ronaldinho seemed larger than life. Yet, something unexpected happened. Instead of treating Messi like an inexperienced teenager, Ronaldinho welcomed him, encouraged him, supported him. Their friendship became one of the most important relationships of Messi's early career. And in many ways, one generation of greatness was quietly preparing the next.
The day eventually arrived. After years of sacrifice, training, uncertainty, and perseverance, Messi stood closer than ever to Barcelona's first team. The stadium lights felt brighter. The expectations felt heavier. Everything he had endured seemed to lead toward this moment. From the streets of Rosario to the training grounds of Barcelona, every step had brought him here. Yet despite everything he had already achieved, the most important chapter of his story had not even begun. The world was finally about to meet Lionel Messi.
For years, Messi had dreamed about this moment. Now it was finally here. The stadium was packed. Thousands of supporters filled the stands. Bright lights illuminated the pitch. Somewhere in the crowd, people watched without realizing they were witnessing the beginning of football history. When Messi stepped onto the field for Barcelona's first team, he carried far more than a football shirt. He carried years of sacrifice, uncertainty, and perseverance. Every difficult moment from Rosario seemed to lead toward this single night. The dream that once appeared impossible had finally become reality. But this was only the beginning.
Many young players reach the professional level. Very few stay there. Messi understood this better than anyone. One appearance meant nothing. One opportunity could disappear as quickly as it arrived. Every training session became a test. Every touch of the ball mattered. Yet, instead of feeling overwhelmed by pressure, Messi seemed energized by it. Coaches noticed his confidence. Teammates noticed his intelligence. Opponents noticed his fearlessness. The same qualities that made him extraordinary as a child continued shining at the highest level. Slowly but surely, people inside Barcelona realized they were witnessing the rise of something special.
Then came the moment every young footballer dreams about. A perfectly timed pass arrived from Ronaldinho. Messi accelerated forward. Time seemed to slow. The goalkeeper rushed toward him. The crowd held its breath. And with remarkable composure, Messi lifted the ball into the net. The stadium exploded with celebration. Teammates rushed toward him. Supporters erupted with joy. It was only one goal, one moment. Yet it symbolized something much larger. The boy who once feared losing his future had now scored for one of the biggest clubs in the world. Football had officially discovered its newest star.
After that goal, everything began moving faster. More appearances followed, more goals followed, more unforgettable performances followed. Defenders struggled to contain him. Supporters filled stadiums hoping to witness his magic. Journalists searched for words capable of describing what they were seeing. Every season seemed to reveal a stronger version of Messi. Every year brought new records and new achievements. The world was no longer asking whether he belonged at the highest level. The world was beginning to wonder just how great he could become. As the years passed, Messi transformed from a promising talent into a global phenomenon. He dribbled past defenders who seemed impossible to beat. He scored goals that appeared impossible to score. Matches often felt predictable, not because Barcelona always won, but because Messi always found a way to create something extraordinary. Supporters expected brilliance whenever he touched the ball. Opponents feared the moment he received possession. Millions of people around the world adjusted their schedules simply to watch him play. Greatness was no longer a possibility. It had become reality.
Then another superstar emerged on the opposite side of football's biggest stage, Cristiano Ronaldo. Both players possessed extraordinary talent. Both shattered records. Both inspired millions. Their rivalry quickly became one of the greatest in sports history. Every goal sparked comparisons. Every trophy fueled debate. Supporters argued endlessly about who was better. Yet beyond the headlines and discussions, the rivalry pushed both players toward even greater heights. Football fans understood they were witnessing something unique. Two legends competing during the same era. A rivalry that would define an entire generation.
Despite all his success with Barcelona, one dream continued escaping Messi: international glory with Argentina. Tournament after tournament ended in disappointment. Finals slipped away. Opportunities disappeared. Criticism grew louder. Some questioned whether he could ever lead Argentina to a major title. Others unfairly compared him to Diego Maradona. The pressure became enormous. No matter how many trophies he won at club level, the same question always returned. Could Messi bring glory to his country? And with every painful defeat, the answer felt increasingly uncertain.
The defeats hurt deeply. Supporters saw the final scores. They saw the headlines. What they rarely saw was the emotional weight behind those moments. Messi had dedicated his life to football. He had overcome obstacles that should have ended his dream years earlier. Yet international success remained frustratingly out of reach. After another heartbreaking defeat, exhaustion finally caught up with him. The criticism, the expectations, the disappointment. Together they became almost unbearable. For a moment, it seemed as though even Lionel Messi had reached his limit.
Then came a moment that shocked the football world. Emotionally drained after years of heartbreak, Messi announced his retirement from international football. Supporters could hardly believe it. Journalists struggled to process the news. Around the world, millions wondered whether they had just witnessed the end of an era. The boy who once refused to surrender now appeared defeated. It felt like a tragic ending. Yet history often hides its greatest twists until the final chapters. And Messi's story was not finished yet. Sometimes the most important chapters arrive after people believe the story is over. Messi eventually returned to Argentina. The dream remained alive. The World Cup still waited in the distance, shining like an impossible destination. Time was running out. Opportunities were becoming fewer. Yet something felt different. The fear that once threatened his future as a child had transformed into determination.
He had spent his entire life overcoming obstacles. Perhaps one final challenge remained. Perhaps destiny had saved its greatest test for last. And somewhere beyond the horizon, the most important tournament of his life was waiting. For years, Messi had carried the weight of an entire nation on his shoulders. Every tournament seemed to end the same way, with heartbreak, criticism, and disappointment. But this time felt different. Argentina was no longer relying on one player alone. A new generation had emerged around him. Teammates believed in him. Coaches trusted him. Supporters refused to give up hope. Slowly, the atmosphere surrounding the national team began to change. The pressure still existed, but something stronger was growing beside it. Belief. And after years of disappointment, belief was exactly what Argentina needed. The Copa America became more than just another tournament. It became an opportunity to rewrite history. Match after match, Argentina fought its way forward. The closer they moved toward the final, the stronger the dream became. Then came the decisive night. 90 minutes separated Messi from the international trophy that had escaped him for so many years. When the final whistle finally arrived, everything changed. Argentina were champions. Teammates celebrated wildly. Supporters cried with joy. And for the first time in his career, Messi lifted a major trophy for his country. Years of heartbreak suddenly felt worthwhile. For many players, that victory would have been enough. But another dream remained unfinished. The World Cup, football's greatest prize, the trophy every child imagines lifting. By 2022, Messi understood reality. Opportunities like this do not last forever. Age was advancing. Time was running out. This might be his final chance. Around the world, supporters recognized the significance of the moment. Whether they supported Argentina or not, millions wanted to witness something special. The stage was set. The final mission of Lionel Messi's extraordinary journey was about to begin. The World Cup began with shock. Argentina entered the tournament as one of the favorites. Expectations were enormous. Confidence was high. Then, disaster struck. Saudi Arabia defeated Argentina in one of the greatest upsets in football history. Supporters stared in disbelief. Critics immediately questioned whether Argentina's dream was already over. Headlines appeared everywhere. Doubts returned. The pressure became overwhelming. For a brief moment, it felt as though the entire tournament might collapse before it had truly begun. Once again, Messi found himself standing at the edge of uncertainty, a place he knew far too well.
Great stories are rarely written without adversity. Instead of breaking Argentina, the defeat united them. Every match became a battle for survival. Every victory became essential. Messi led by example. His performances inspired teammates. His determination inspired supporters. Slowly, momentum returned. Confidence returned. Hope returned. Argentina advanced through the tournament one challenge at a time. With every passing round, the dream grew stronger. The nightmare of the opening match slowly faded into the background. Ahead waited something even bigger. A chance to reach football immortality.
As Argentina moved deeper into the tournament, the atmosphere changed completely. Stadiums filled with supporters singing his name. Millions watched from homes, restaurants, streets, and public squares across the world. Every touch of the ball carried significance. Every goal felt historic. Messi delivered again and again. Not through luck, not through coincidence, but through years of experience, sacrifice, and determination. The same child who once feared losing his future was now leading his nation toward football's greatest prize. And with each step forward, the possibility became more real.
Then came the final. Argentina versus France. Messi versus destiny. 90 minutes separated him from the one achievement missing from his career. The atmosphere inside the stadium felt electric. Every supporter understood the significance of the occasion. Every player understood what was at stake. For Messi, this was more than a football match. It was the culmination of decades of sacrifice, struggle, and perseverance. The world watched as one of the greatest finals in football history unfolded. A match filled with drama, tension, and unforgettable moments.
The final refused to end quietly. Every time Argentina appeared close to victory, France fought back. Every time the dream seemed secure, uncertainty returned. The match became an emotional roller coaster. Supporters experienced hope, fear, excitement, and panic within the span of a few minutes. Messi continued pushing forward. Teammates continued fighting beside him. The entire football world seemed frozen in anticipation. Everything came down to a handful of moments. Moments capable of defining careers, nations, and legacies forever.
Then it happened. The final whistle arrived. Argentina were world champions. Years of heartbreak disappeared in an instant. Teammates embraced one another, supporters celebrated across the globe, and Lionel Messi stood at the center of it all. The dream that once seemed impossible had become reality. The child who feared losing his future had conquered football's highest mountain. Every sacrifice, every setback, every painful defeat, every obstacle, all of it had led to this single moment. At last, the journey was complete.
Years earlier, a frightened boy sat alone, staring at a stack of medical papers, wondering whether his dream was already over. Nobody in that room could have imagined what the future held. They could not see the trophies. They could not see the records. They could not see the World Cup. They could only see uncertainty. Yet history often belongs to those who refuse to surrender when uncertainty appears. Lionel Messi's story was never truly about football. It was about perseverance. It was about belief. It was about refusing to let circumstances decide your future. And perhaps that is why millions admire him. Because deep down, every dreamer sees a little bit of themselves in the boy who refused to quit.